Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Cornell Hunter. I'm sitting in with the man Tyler Merkovich. Today we're going to take a look at the 2009 Minnesota Vikings. We know that they have one of the best in the business in the ground game, but what do you see happening in Minnesota, especially with the question mark at quarterback?
Well, question mark at quarterback might be solved after reports are that he put a down payment on a house in Minnesota. That is Brett Favre. You know the relationship he has with Darrell Bevell. You know Brad Childress probably wants him in because they don't have faith in Tavares Jackson and the guy they signed in the offseason from the Houston Texans, Sage Rosenfels. But when you talk about Minnesota, you got to talk about the run game, Adrian Peterson. And I think they need to get Chester Taylor a little more involved. You got to keep Adrian Peterson fresh. He's been healthy his whole career, 2 years so far without an injury. But, you know, the way his running style is, he's due for something. So, you know, let's work Chester in there and use him because you signed him for that big contract. So use him for something. Keep Adrian Peterson fresh. Then when the playoffs come, then you know what? You go all out and use Adrian Peterson. Well,
I know all the Vikings fans are having dreams of Brett Favre handing it to Adrian Peterson. But if it is true that he is going to be signing real soon, what type of receiving targets does he have down there in Minnesota?
Childress jumped all over this first-round pick. Percy Harvin over from Florida. And, you know, he was kind of a smaller, skinny guy at Florida. Worked his way hard in the weight room. Now he's a big guy. He could catch it over the middle, and he could take it the distance. Yeah. So they were looking for something. They had a serviceable guy, Bobby Wade, who's a little dependable. Sidney Rice, who's been a disappointment so far. Maybe this lights a fire under Sidney Rice's behind, and he steps it up. So those three guys are going to work for the number 2, but the number 1 is Bernard Berrien, of course, after he came over from Chicago a couple of years ago. So those are pretty good targets. Also, Visanthe Shenko is their tight end, who is not the best tight end, but he is serviceable.
Well, I'm sure that the fans, Percy Harvin is a great talent, and he can score from anywhere on the field. That can only make that offense more dangerous. What about that Minnesota offensive line?
Oh, that's where you got to start. I mean, they lose the brains of the offensive line, I'm sorry, Matt Burke. He's out to Baltimore, but they retain the left side of the line is ridiculous. Yeah. Left tackle, Bryant McKinney, Steve Hutchinson, left guard, and they went out and got this guy who is an absolute moose, Phil Loadholt from Oklahoma. Yes. He's going to try to start at right tackle right away. He's a big guy. He's a mauler. He could definitely run block, but is he quick enough to get off the hashes against these quick defensive ends in the NFL? That's yet to be seen. They got Anthony Herrera, who's also a good guard, starting at right guard, and they're going to move a second-year guy to Notre Dame under center to replace Matt Burke. That's Jonathan Sullivan.
Yeah, that's a huge offensive line. You look at the tackle to the guard, you bring in the guy Loadholt from Oklahoma, as you mentioned. That is an offensive line where defenders often disappear when those guys are pounding and pounding and pounding the ball at you. Now, that covers the offense. What about the defense? And we know they picked up Jared Allen, came in, but aren't they facing some suspensions down there in Minnesota, or how's that situation working out?
Another question mark there. The Williams brothers. Kevin Williams is one of the best pass rushing tackles in the league. Pat Williams is one of the best run-stuffing tackles in the league. They're both pending a 4-game suspension again for violating the anti-drug policy of the NFL. So that's a huge question mark. They need these guys in the lineup because their backups, they're Fred Evans and Jimmy Kennedy, came over from St. Louis a couple years ago. Yeah, I mean, can these guys step up for 4 games? These guys are 2 of the best tackles in the league. This is where Minnesota's defense is built. These 2 guys, they need them back ASAP.
Okay, well, what about the linebacking core? Because if those 2 guys are missing in the middle for the first 4 games, that's going to ultimately make it tougher on the linebackers. So I'm wondering, what can those linebackers withstand the absence of their top 2 D tackles?
Good question. Well, E.J. Anderson is their middle linebacker.
Love him.
So he's been pretty solid. Weak side linebacker Chad Greenway, who can cover against anybody. This guy, he can probably cover wide receivers for all we know.
He's an athlete. That is a great athletic linebacker.
And Ben Lieber is a strong side linebacker. So this is not the best unit in the league because you don't need that good of linebackers with the Williams brothers and Allen rushing the end because they're built more on the defensive line. So this is serviceable, but not the best unit in the league.
And we had a veteran cornerback in Minnesota make his first Pro Bowl last year, and many argue that he's been a top corner in the league. Talk about that Minnesota secondary for a second.
Antoine Winfield, you're talking about, underrated. Finally makes his first Pro Bowl last year. He's undersized, and on the other side is Cedric Griffin, who got a contract extension this year. So those two guys are very viable, and another veteran is out of there. Darren Sharper goes to the Bayou, New Orleans. Great leader. And they're going to replace him with last year's second-round pick, Tyrell Johnson, out of Arkansas State. And he played 7 games last year due to Madu Williams' injury. So Madu is healthy this year, so he's going to start alongside Johnson. So good thing Johnson got that experience last year during his rookie season.
And you mentioned that first-round pick, Percy Harvin. I can only imagine that this guy is going to do some spectacular things for that Viking special team unit.
They're probably going to put him back there. You know, they can't put their number 1, Bernard Berrien, back there, you know, or risk injury with him because they need him on the offense. So Harvin will take... The thing is, with their special teams, they let up a record 7 kickback returns last year, or / punt returns, so that's a new record. Ryan Longwell was pretty solid kicker, and Cluey's their punter, but they need to get their coverage down. That unit needs to improve because that can handicap them.
All right, now, we all know big news, Favre may be returning, supposed down payment on a house. With his return, that changes the scope of the way things look in Minnesota. Where do you have the Vikings finishing pending that this Brett Favre deal actually gets done?
Assuming Brett Favre is in the lineup, they get their wish. I still think they're going to come in second place. They're going to have a great shot at a wild card berth. Got great defense. You know, and Favre's going to make it a lot better for them because he's going to run the ball. All of a sudden, Favre's got that great arm, and he's got options downfield. Berrien's a good deep guy. Harvin's a good deep guy. Rice could turn into that. So, I mean, if he's not going to have to throw the ball 30 times, they're going to keep it low. He's going to make, hopefully he can make plays for them, for their sake. Otherwise, they're going to run the ball, play defense, great defensive line. Minnesota will vie for a wild card spot. I think they're looking at second place in the NFC North.
All right, well, there you have it. That's the man, Tyler Merkovich. I'm Cornell Hunter. We just provided you with the Minnesota Vikings 2019 preview. If you want to see more video analysis of your favorite team, visit footballgameplan.com/NFL. We'll see you guys soon.